Hello everyone, welcome to Barca News. It is June 9th, 2025, and it's reported that Barcelona are now ready to place Andreas Christensen on the market. Also, another player that could be leaving thanks to a decision by the club is Pablo Torre. And finally, it's reported that Laporta wants the signing of Julian Alvarez. We have a lot to discuss, so let's begin. Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. My name is Mo and we'll begin this video with the news that there's now new interest in Barca Athletic midfielder Noah Darvic. Now Noah Darvic was signed by Barcelona 2 years ago with lots of hype and lots of expectation that he could be, the next best thing as far as the midfield. After spending 2 seasons with Barca Athletic, the youngster has failed to impress his coaches, and it's reported that now Noah Darvic could be on his way out. And of course, in a previous video, I had reported that there are 2 clubs in his home country of Germany who are interested in signing Noah Darvic, including Bayer Leverkusen and Stuttgart. And now it's reported that Manchester City are now eyeing the midfielder, with the Premier League club also joining the race for the Barca Athletic midfielder. Now, my question for you is, would you like to see Noah Darvic spend another season at the club, or would you like to see Barcelona offload him? And if so, how much should Barcelona get for Darvic? Let me know down below in the comment section. Now, speaking of Barca Athletic and the academy players, Hansi Flick has called up yet another player from the youth setup, and it's Landry Farré. Now, I told you in previous videos how Hansi Flick has called up Tony Fernandez, Pedro Hernandez, Juan Hernandez, Pedro Fernandez. I always confuse their last names, and Jofre Torrens to the first team so they can participate in the preseason training and also in the Asia Tour. And now Hansi Flick has called up Landry Farré, the 18-year-old defender who can play both as a center back and also as a fullback. He is from the same generation as Lamine Yamal and Pau Cubarsí, and he is someone known for his versatility, physicality, endurance, and work ethic. And now that work ethic has paid off because Flick has called him up to the preseason, where the 18-year-old defender will have a chance to prove himself and see if he can earn a spot on Hansi Flick's team. Now, speaking of defenders, we do have to talk about Andreas Christensen, because, ladies and gentlemen, Barcelona have now decided to put the Danish center back on the market. Now, in the upcoming weeks in Barcelona will be key, because both Hansi Flick and Deco will be meeting with players that Barcelona plan to offload in order to let them know, hey, your time is up. We don't count on you, and we're gonna be offloading you. One of those meetings, of course, will be with Mark Ter Stegen, which I talked about during the podcast today, which if you haven't seen it yet, make sure to check it out. And another player that the club is expected to meet with is Andreas Christensen, who will be entering the final year of his contract, because his contract expires in 2026. And as you know, Barcelona now have a new rule that no player will be allowed to remain at the club during the final year of their contract. So you either renew or you get offloaded, and it looks like Barcelona have decided to offload Christensen. Now, there was originally no plans to offload Andreas Christensen, but since Ronald Araujo did renew with the club, it looks like Christensen will be that sacrificial lamb, because, of course, Christensen is not a player that Hansi Flick counts on as a starter. He will be a substitute, and in the sporting department, Deco and his staff believe that they can have someone cover that position, being a substitute, someone from the academy, someone like Landry Farré, for example, so they could offload Andreas Christensen, free up his first team salary, which is going to be much bigger than someone coming up from the academy like Landry Farré. Plus, he did come for free, so Barcelona could earn money off his transfer, and that money would be 100% profit. So Deco and the sporting department believe, by offloading Christensen, you're making money off his transfer, you're clearing his bigger salary off the wage limit, and you can have just someone from the academy replace him, since, again, Araujo renewed, so Christensen will have to leave. And again, this kind of circles back at the point that I made during the podcast, which, again, if you haven't seen it, make sure you do, is that this sporting department does not seem to know how to plan ahead, because they saw that Araujo could be leaving. They entered in panic mode. Let's renew him at all costs. They renewed him. Now Araujo has another 6-year contract. And yet we saw during the second half of the season where Araujo was not fitting under Hansi Flick's plan, where Christensen was. And now we have to sacrifice a defender who's been doing better under Flick's system because Deco did not think ahead and just decided to renew Araujo at all costs because he was panicking that he saw Araujo leaving. And then, if Araujo decides to stay through the end of his contract, we're going to have to go through the same ordeal that we have to go with all these other players, where we're going to have to force him out. We're going to have to offer to rescind this contract and give him away for free. We're going to have to offer to pay him a salary, a year's salary, 2-year salary, kind of like what's happening with Torre and like what's happened with other players. So a little bit of disappointing news here, because I would have preferred Christensen stay over Araujo, but it looks like the Danish defender will have to be sacrificed. Anyways, let's move on to the next bit of news, because it looks like Barcelona have decided to offload yet another player, and this one is Pablo Torre. Now, Barcelona were initially planning on sending Pablo Torre on loan. Pablo Torre's contract also expires in the summer of 2026, so again, he cannot stay at the club during his last year of the contract. So the plan was either to loan him, to renew him, or to offload him. Barcelona had initially decided that they wanted to extend the contract of Pablo Torre, send him out on loan so he can continue growing and developing. But now, since Barcelona need to generate cash in order to finance other transfers or registrations of players that might come to the club, then Barcelona have decided that they prefer to offload Pablo Torre, but include a repurchase option where Pablo Torre does end up, reaching that potential that the club hoped that he can reach, and Barcelona can activate that clause and bring him back to the club. Now, there are several and plenty of clubs interested in Pablo Torre, including Porto out of Portugal, Osasuna, Sevilla, and Valencia in La Liga. Now, it's definitely a shame that Pablo Torre will be offloaded, because I think we all saw that he has plenty of potential. But unfortunately, that position is pretty stacked. The attacking midfield position is pretty stacked. We have Dani Olmo, Fermin Lopez. Gabi can play in that position. If we sign a left winger, Rafinha will move over to that position. So we have plenty of players, which again, it goes back to planning. Deco just does not plan ahead. He just plans for the next month, the next week, maybe the current season. Because again, it goes back to that point that I've made time and time again. Why did we sign Dani Olmo? And again, it has nothing to do with Dani Olmo's talent. Great player. He's made a difference this season. But did we really need yet another attacking midfielder where we had so many options? And now, of course, we're going to have to offload Pablo Torre. And if we sign a left winger and Rafinha moves over, who's going to be the two attacking midfielders? Rafinha and Olmo. What happens to Fermin Lopez? Are we going to have to sacrifice him too? Anyways, let's end this video with the news that Laporta has set his sights on Julian Alvarez, where the Barcelona president believes that Julian Alvarez will be the perfect replacement for Robert Lewandowski. Now, as you know, Barcelona are not planning to sign any center forwards this summer. That's the plan for next summer when Lewandowski's contract expires. And it's reported that Laporta wants Barcelona to sign Julian Alvarez to replace Robert Lewandowski, and the Barcelona president wants to convince Julian to come to Barcelona, which I don't think would need much convincing. As we've heard from previous reports, Julian Alvarez would love to play for Barcelona, but of course the problem is that there's no way that Barcelona can afford him, because Atletico Madrid did pay 100 million euros for Julian Alvarez only last summer. He just became their most important player. There's no way they're going to let him go, and if they do, it's not going to be for 100 million. Expect way more than that. Atletico Madrid are going to want to make their money back and some, so there's no way that Barcelona could afford him. But even if Barcelona could afford him, it's reported that there is a disagreement within the club where both Flick and Deco prefer a different kind of profile center forward than Julian Alvarez. And, I think Julian Alvarez would be a great fit, but if Deco and Flick believe that that's not the case, then they must know something that we don't. Now, I have to say this. If Barcelona do end up signing Julian Alvarez, let it be because Flick and Deco believe that he is the better fit, not because Joan Laporta chose him. Because as I've said many times before, I don't think presidents of clubs should be getting involved in signings, because after all, we have professionals in the sporting department that's their job, to assess players, to see what fits and what doesn't fit. There's the coach too, which his input is also valuable, versus presidents should limit themselves to running the actual club, not the signings. You know, we saw what happens with Joao Felix. Laporta was like, I want Joao Felix. Deco was like, no. Xavi was like, no. Nobody wanted him at the club, but Laporta was like, I want him. We signed him, well, thankfully on loan, and we all saw what happened. So if Barcelona do end up signing Julian Alvarez, which, again, we cannot afford, let it be because the sporting department and the coach said that he was a good option, not because the president decided that he wants him for the club. Anyways, that is all for this video. I did do the podcast earlier today. If you haven't seen it yet, make sure to check it out. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, drop a comment, and as always, Visca Barça.